I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. I'm joined by my colleague and friend, Malcolm Hoenlein of the Conference of Presidents, Major American Jewish Organizations. It is one world, and it is extremely busy and threatening right now from the point of view of those working with and dealing with Iran. We go to the news from not this Iran, the interception of the Class C, but we take all of us in a time machine back 12 years to another ship, another interception, the Korean A, January of 2002. Malcolm, I recall you arriving to announce the significance of that very excitedly. And it was, as I understand now, and thanks to your education all these years, it was a moment when Arafat lost power, lost momentum for his campaign of duplicity all those years,
credibility.
All those years against Israel. We welcome Aaron David Miller. Aaron is Vice President for New Initiatives, Distinguished Scholar at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. Aaron, a very good evening to you. We were all younger men January of 2002, but now we have an interception of the Class C that is reminiscent of that, this time loaded with Syrian missiles, range of up to 125 miles, said to have originated in Iran and to be headed into the Sinai. Recall with us the significance of intercepting the Korean A, and does it match Class C tonight? Good evening to you, Aaron.
It's great to be here, John. Hello, Malcolm.
Hi.
You know, Korean A really did influence the politics, certainly, of the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations and the situation in Israel in a fundamental way. I mean, Korean A really was a moment in which it became unmistakably clear to Israel, certainly the Prime Minister, who had harbored suspicions of Arafat's never having abandoned the gun, even while he continued to negotiate. But it also reaffirmed the Bush administration's sense that Arafat was part of a vast, as they described it at the time, global terrorist network, Iran, Hezbollah, and essentially was not a partner. That was a rather dramatic moment. I happened to be working as an advisor to then General Tony Zinni, who President George W. Bush had appointed as a special envoy, and it was our objective between December of 2001 and March of 2002 to try to negotiate a ceasefire between Arafat and Sharon. And I remember sitting with Zinni at Sheikh Meem Farm, Sharon's farm, in the south, having a meeting trying to sell Sharon on the idea that it was absolutely essential to try to create some space by negotiating a ceasefire to extract Israel from the Second Intifada. And Sharon was interrupted by his military secretary, who brought in a note indicating that the Israelis who had been tracking the Korean A was a ship under Panamanian registry, but clearly bound with almost 50 tons of a variety of weapons, this time not for Hamas in Gaza or Islamic Jihad, but for the Palestinian Authority. Arafat would later deny, of course, that he had anything to do with Korean A, and would appoint a special investigative committee. But the reality is that it really did, I think, suggest to just about everyone that Arafat had really never given up the gun, and that the shipment was intended for his delivery in prospective use. Sharon told us that we should not say anything about this publicly until the Israelis announced it, but I remember clearly he said to us, but you can tell Arafat that the package he was expecting will not be arriving. Within 2 months, you remember at the Park Hotel, a terrible terrorist attack during the Passover holidays triggered Israel's re-entry into the West Bank. And from then on, you ended up with an intensified confrontation. So Korean A really did have almost a global impact as it pertained to the United States, the Israelis, and the Palestinians. Class C won't as much, in part because the circumstances are quite different. I think the real meaning of Class C, the current takedown, is that when you start dancing with a bear, the expression goes, the only problem is you can't let go. The United States has embarked on a very difficult course with the government of Iran, and an effort to put Iran's nuclear option beyond use. At least that would be the objective, to dismantle it, to take it down. And Iran's behavior in the region, apart from the nuclear issue, is very problematic. And Iranian fingerprints are all over the delivery of these Syrian missiles, probably assembled with Chinese component parts, probably assembled in Syria, range 200 kilometers, very precise, very lethal. They were used by Hezbollah in the 2006 war with great effectiveness against Israeli population centers. The Iranians still have a hand, and it's unclear whether these were intended for Hamas or Islamic Jihad. The reality is it really doesn't matter. The fact is the Iranians continue to pursue behaviors supporting the murderous policies of Bashar Assad, supporting Palestinian groups in Gaza with high-trajectory weapons, which have only one purpose, to be used against Israeli population centers. And that shackles and burdens the United States puts it in a very awkward position.
But what consequence is there for the Iranians? They can do this. I remember with Karine, when they laid out all those weapons, it shocked everybody. It did have an impact. It couldn't strike Arafat, but it sort of sidelined him forever. What is the message here? That Rouhani, the moderate, is either not in control or agrees with this, but it can't be that he didn't know.
Well, I think it's a fairly bifurcated policy. I mean, look, let's be clear. There's one supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei. He makes the decisions, and the reality is, this is a sort of there's a degree of automaticity here when it comes to supporting Hezbollah, when it comes to supporting Palestinian groups, when it comes to backing the Syrians. This is a policy being run by the Revolutionary Guards and the conservative hardliners that make up quite an influential circle surrounding Khamenei. Rouhani may represent the other side, but even Rouhani's moderation is designed tactically, it seems to me.
So, but what is the message to the rest of the region if nothing happens, if there's no price for the discovery of these weapons, which could have been used to destabilize Egypt, from Sinai, Gaza, Israel? I mean, there has to be some consequence.
No, there won't be a consequence.
So that sends the wrong message again.
And the conversations in Geneva about the suspect nuclear weapons program carry on as if this world doesn't exist, this world of the Clause C?
Governing is about choosing, and it seems to me that the administration's top priority in the Middle East right now, despite the diversion, distraction of Ukraine, is essentially to come to some agreement with the Iranians on the nuclear issue, which makes an Israeli attack unnecessary, an American attack unnecessarily, and essentially allows the president to say, quite legitimately, that the Iranians did not cross a different kind of red line toward weaponization on his watch. It is the single issue in the Middle East that could undermine his domestic legacy, a military strike against Iran, plunging financial markets, rising oil prices, attacks on Americans in Afghanistan.
Should the U.S. release the $550 million that Iran is due to get in the next days? Shouldn't there be something that we hold back?
It's almost. I mean, it's inconceivable to me unless Congress decides to act and push sanctions legislation outside of the joint plan of action, the interim agreement, and they may. I mean, another stunt like this, and it seems to me, Congress may have no choice, and the administration may have to acquiesce. This has been the fundamental flaw in the strategy with Iran all along. It cannot be compartmentalized. You can negotiate on the nuclear issue because it represents the hottest button, the most urgent issue. Nobody, not the least of which the Israelis, want to see a military strike against Iran. There's too much uncertainty, too many unpredictable consequences. But the reality is Iranian behavior in so many other areas conflict with their intentions over the negotiating table. And the fact is Iran can have it both ways for a while. but I'm not sure it's going to be sustainable. You have at least another 10 months of negotiation.
Aaron David Miller, Vice President, New Initiatives, Distinguished Scholar, Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars, Malcolm Hoenlein. Aaron is the author of The End of Greatness, Why America Can't Have and Doesn't Want Another Great President. I'm John Batchelor.